Oh my God!
Hey everyone, this is Rachel. Thanks for clicking on my video. I wanted to come in today to do a story time. Now, this story time occurred when I was about 21 years old, and I had come home for the summer from college. And I got this job working at a law firm in the downtown of the city that I lived in. And when I got there, I had befriended this group of women. Now, these women were in their late 20s to mid 30s. And I liked them because they were funny. They made me laugh with all their stories about their spouses and just life. Now, all of them were either married or they were living with like their boyfriends. Now, eventually, even though I was younger than them, I started kind of going out with them. Like we would go to happy hour after work, and then we progressed to going out on the weekends. Now, again, I was just so head over heels with these girls because they were just so much fun. Now, in getting to know them and, finding out things about them, one of the ladies that I worked with started messing around with this guy at work. Now, the guy was really cute, so we kind of, could understand why she wanted to mess around with him, but the only problem was she was married. So in the beginning, we started telling her stuff like, what if your husband finds out? What are you going to do? Girl, that man is going to kill you. And we're just saying it in a joking manner, not really meaning that. But you know how you're trying to just warn your girlfriend, to be careful because, this man might find out. So her relationship with her, tipping out on her husband continued on for quite a few months. Then it came this one time that she had asked us to go out on the weekend. And she had told us that she needed us to pick her up. Now, this was unusual for her because she had a really nice car, and we were young and we were kind of had hoopties, so we were wondering why this time did she need us to pick her up. Well, unbeknownst to us, she had told her husband that we were going to have a girls' night out and that we had rented a suite at a hotel and that we were all going to stay over. Now, actually, that was not the plan. We were under the impression that we were going to just go out with her. But what it was is that she had planned this romantic evening with this guy that she was messing around with at work. So we get over her house, and the first thing that we notice is that she lives in this beautiful neighborhood. And as we looked for her address, each house as we traveled down the street got better and better. Now, this girl was about in her late 20s, living in the suburbs, and we finally pull up to her house, and it is a beautiful house. We get out, knock on the door, and her husband comes to the door and he invites us in. He's really warm and sweet. And when we came in, he and his son, they were like in the living room playing a video game together. I think her son was about 9 years old. So eventually our friend comes downstairs and the husband invites us into the kitchen, for a little drink before we set off on our night that he thought we were going out partying. So when we get in the kitchen is like in a construction state. And what her husband explained to us is that he had knocked out a wall to expand their kitchen. And he was like, really proud of the job that he was doing and all of the new appliances that he was putting in for her. And he also had told us that she had wanted this brick wall in the kitchen and that he had went and found all these bricks to make this really beautiful wall. So as we sat there and, just talked with her husband, we kept feeling more and more guilty because we knew that she was cheating on him. And, he was such a nice, sweet guy. And, he would babysit, and not go out himself for their child, allowing her just to have fun. She told us that he was a homebody and, he didn't like going out, but he didn't mind her going out. He was secure in their relationship. So when we leave the house that night, we get in the car and she's wanting us to drop her off at this hotel. So we were all quiet in the car, and then one of my friends spoke up and said, you really shouldn't be doing this. You got a good husband. He seems like a really nice guy. He allows you to go out every weekend. Because when I hung with this group of women, when I say we went out every weekend, we went out every weekend. And sometimes, during the week. Now, I was only 21 years old. So, I didn't, wasn't married or anything. So it wasn't, any big thing for me. But they were all married and in committed relationships. So we drop her off at the hotel. And then when she gets out the car, we were talking about her like a dog. So we continue on and we go out. So that Monday when we get back to work, over the weekend, we had all gotten on the phone that Sunday, after we had gone out to talk about, what happened at her house. And then we were saying, how bad she was to cheat on a good man. So when we got back to work Monday, we started kind of going in on her like, you should not cheat on your husband like that. And then she was like all smug saying, when we told her that while you're out cheating, some woman could come along and, take your husband. And she was all like, I'm not worried. I got him wrapped. You see all the stuff. He got me in that nice house out in the suburb. I get a new car every 4 years, just kind of bragging. So we continue on telling her, you better be careful because what goes around comes around. So I was sitting there just looking at her being all smug and holding court and talking about how she got this nice thing on the side and got this good husband at home. So I told her something like this. I said, you know what? A young girl like me who like looking for someone to help her with her tuition and books and stuff. I said, girl, I will give you a run for your money with your husband. And so I said, I bet you I could make him meet me on a date and, just shake your little cage a little bit to let you know that he can be taken. So she issued me a challenge. And she was like, well, okay, let's do a challenge. And I had said, how long do you think it would take for me to pull him, or at least get him to agree to go out on a date with me? And then you could tell when, when everybody got quiet, she started to get a little nervous. So she said, I don't know, you set the time frame. So I told her to give me like a month, because I was only home for the summer. I said, give me like a month and I bet you I can convince him to go out on a date. You keep leaving him at home by himself, babysitting kids, and you out partying and cheating on him with another guy. So we set up this challenge. So what I did is I called him one time. And then, this was the start of it. This was the challenge. So I pretended like I was calling asking for her. And she wasn't there. So when he told me that, I said, well, how are you doing? And then I was like, I'm one of the women that came over last Friday. I'm the little short, dark skinned one. And he said, oh, I remember you. And I said, I was complimenting him on the job that he did and how he was a good man. And I would be honored to have someone like that. And then he said, pretty much just thank you. And he was, appreciative of the comment. So I get off the phone because, you don't want to press it too much. You don't want them to become suspicious. So the next time, the agreement was I was supposed to stop over the house and act like, I was looking for her, but actually, I was going to come in and do a little flirting with him. Now, this is all, with her agreement, with her telling me, different scenarios. I'm not going to be home Friday. You go over there and I'm going to tell you, you're not going to be able to pull them. So what I did is I went over her house because one of our other friends lived around the corner from her. And I just said, knocked on the door and I said, hey, I was looking for, and then I said his wife's name. And he said, come in, she's not here right now. So I came in and I, pretended like I was thirsty, and I went in the kitchen, and, he had progressed a little bit more in doing the kitchen. And I sat there and did the little thing where you compliment him and then start talking about how handsome he is. And again, saying, I would be lucky to have a man like him. Now, at first he was, very appreciative of the comments, and then eventually he started to get quiet because I could tell he was uncomfortable because he knew that I was flirting with him. So I kind of eased back, and then, I said, well, she gave me this challenge. So even though it was a little awkward, I said, I'm going to push him a little further because, I got a 1 month deadline. This bitch is out here cheating and she has this sweet guy at home. And when I look back on this now, we were wrong to do this to him, to play this game on him. But at the time when I was 21, I just wanted to show her that what she thought couldn't happen could possibly happen. So what I did is I told him, I said, I find you attractive, and if you ever want to go out, and just have lunch or something. And I gave him my number. And he said, I'm married, you're friends with my wife, and I don't cheat. So I said, well, I understand, but if you ever decide to, I want to be first on your list. I was being really aggressive. So I told him, after I gave him the number, I was like, okay, this is really, really awkward. So I decided to leave. And I said, well, I'm going to leave now. So I left. And then a few days later, I called him again. And I said something like, now again, all of this is with her blessing. I'm telling her what I'm doing is all out in the open. So the next time I called him, I said, knowing that she wasn't there, I pressed it again. I said, I gave you my number and I didn't hear from you. And I just wanted to know, like, if you were thinking about what, what I said about going out for lunch or something. And he said, well, in the beginning, I wasn't. And then he said, but, I have been thinking about it. But again, he told me that he was married and that he never cheated. And now when I look back on this again, I feel so bad because I'm older now, and I realize that this man went into this with one thought and we were just playing with him. So I told him, I said, well, again, if you're ever wanting to step out, I want to be first on your list. So this time I felt really awkward and I didn't call him anymore. And about a week or two went by and he called me. And then I was panicking because I'm thinking, okay, now what? Do I actually go on a date with him? So we're at work, and all of the ladies now, it was 5 of us, we're all keeping up with this. And his wife is still saying he ain't gonna go. He might have called you, but I bet you he don't go. So I'm sitting there and I said, you know what? I really don't want to do this, but how you're sitting there like, this bitch is something else. And I don't know, I think it's because I was young and, full of myself a little bit at the time. I said, you know what, I'm gonna press this. I wasn't even really thinking about his feelings, and every time I talk about this, I feel so bad. But I wanted to press it to show her that her man can be taken, and maybe she should appreciate what she had at home. And so when he called me, and I was talking to the ladies, I asked her, I said, well, what would you like me to do? Do you want me to have him like meet me for dinner? or do you want me to have him like go on a date, a date that occurred in the daytime? And she was like, see if you can get him to come out to dinner. But she's still saying she knows that he's not going to do it. But I could tell that there was a little crack in her armor because he actually picked up the phone and called me. And I guess she thought like she had his nose wide open and, he would never do anything like that. So I agreed to, pull back and let him call me again because she said, don't call him. Let him call you again. So, about a week or so went by. It probably wasn't even that long. And because in our last conversation, he had told me to decide, what we were going to do. And, he still wanted to think about it, before he actually went on the date. So I didn't call him back because I thought that would be pressing it a little bit too much. And this is getting confusing because I'm forgetting the order of things. Okay, so he called me first, and then we talked, and I talked about going out, and I told him I didn't know where I wanted to go, and I would call him back to let him know. Now, I remember doing that so I could tell her where me and him were and kind of say, well, do you want me to go through with this? And the agreement was I was supposed to call him back. And then that's why she told me, don't call him back. Just see if he calls you back. So a few days went by. It was like maybe up to a week. And he called me again. And he said, well, I was waiting for you to call me back to tell me where you wanted to go. And again, I was like, okay, do I really go through with this? So I had told him that, I wanted to go to this little place where, they play like live music and, it's a little restaurant. So he agreed to it. So I go back again and I tell her, okay, now we set up a date. Is you're going to be home and, with your son because, they had a 9-year-old son. And she normally went out and he would babysit. But this time he was going to, I guess, tell her that he was going out with friends or something. So we set it up. She was well aware of it. And I actually went to dinner with her husband. But when I went to dinner with him, I didn't flirt with him. And I was real quiet and it made the date real awkward. And he did say, I made a mistake doing this. I should not be here. I love my wife and I don't know why I did this. And I told him that, she was my friend and I was sorry that, I had played with him like that. Now, I didn't tell him that behind the scenes she was orchestrating all this. So we parted, nothing happened. And, I told him that I would never call him again. And I felt bad. So we part ways and the weekend is over and we go back to work. And she realizes that he actually, she knows that he actually went out on a date with me. I told her exactly what he had on, so it could be confirmed that he actually went. And so we're sitting at work. Now, her cage is rattled now because what she thought couldn't happen actually happened. And I told her, I said, I am not attracted to your husband at all. So you never have to worry about me calling him again. I said, but what that experiment that we just did showed you is that now he's opened the door. He actually talked to another woman on the phone, set up a date, and went on it. So you opened up the door now for him to think about stepping out on you. And I told her, you need to go home, cut this guy loose at work and tend to your husband. Now, to end this story, she never cut the guy loose at work. She still messed around with him. But I will say this, she took her marriage, I guess, a little more seriously, leaving him at home. She started doing more with her husband, but she still kept on messing around with the guy at work. Now, I only was home from school for, like I say, the summer. I might have came home in May and I left again end of August, beginning of September. So when I left that job, she was still messing around with the guy at work. And then, the next year I kind of got another job and I never found out, what was the outcome of, that little experiment that she agreed to do and I participated in. So, you never know. And the reason why I wanted to tell that story time is because, first of all, looking back now, what we did to him was very wrong. We were playing games with someone's feelings, and she actually opened up the door where her husband wasn't thinking about being, unfaithful to her. By her issuing that challenge and actually participating in it, she opened the door to him cheating. And then, she didn't make it any better, because you would think that after she realized that this man that she claimed would never go out on a date with another woman because she had him so wrapped, actually went out on a date with my 21-year-old ass. And I think at the time they were in their early 30s. So y'all, that is my story time. And I'm going to tell you, I am not that type of person. I would never do that to one of my friends. But she was the type of woman, I felt that she was at 21, that needed to be taken down a peg, because she constantly sat around bragging about how she had this man on the side and what all he was doing to her body and licking and lapping. And then she got this husband at home who's taking care of her, material things that she need. And she was just a mess, y'all. Those type of women. But when I think back on it now, I feel really bad. So that is my story time. And if you have any comments, I would welcome them. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye now.